Today we're talking about factory shutdowns, vehicles that aren't equipped right, and just overall sales of the RV industry right now. Hey guys!
Welcome back to another video. Today we are doing an industry update. We did one of these like a couple months ago and you guys seem to really like it. I know that because of COVID and everything, the RV market is just changing rapidly, and I feel like every month there's just new things to talk about. So let us know if you guys like this style of video, and we might start doing it like once a month or every other month or something. But yeah, today we have some pretty cool things to talk about, pretty exciting things. We're excited to jump into it with you.
So to kick it off, I'm gonna go over just the RV market and the sales a little bit first. So we kind of finished up first quarter a few weeks ago, and that data is pouring in. And surprisingly, sales are down this year. That's not surprising. I expected that. And I could see that in our, in our works in the industry. But what did surprise me is it's only down 1.5% from last year. And the year before was way up. So we're really, overall, we're still really up a lot.
We haven't had that big drop that I think a lot of people were expecting.
Right. I was expecting it to an extent. I think people thought it was gonna like crash. I wasn't expecting a crash, but I was expecting, a slow, steady drop. And it's not quite happening like I think everybody thought it would. And I think there's some reason behind that. So there's an article in RV News that was kind of done with KOA, which obviously owns a lot of campgrounds in the area. And they collected some, Tucker, ow.
If you guys hear panting, whining, or any of the sort during this video, it's because we have a needy dog.
Yes, he's very needy.
Tucker.
He's been extra needy today too.
He can't seem to understand why we're like sitting in chairs like here in front of the window. So he's just gonna be extra clingy the whole time.
Yeah.
We couldn't possibly lay down on the sofa.
Okay, sit down.
Okay.
So sorry about that, but obviously, KOA owns a lot of campgrounds, and they collected a lot of data, and they're finding that a lot of people are still camping, and they're kind of overwhelmed in the campgrounds, and we've noticed that too. It's a little bit harder to find campgrounds than it was a couple years ago, especially for like last minute campgrounds.
Yeah.
So they're finding that there's a lot more RVers, and something interesting that I read is in the past, the majority, so over 50% of RVers, call it, were rented or borrowed. So, it wasn't a lot of people owning it. They were borrowing it from family members, friends, outdoorsy, something like that. And now, I think it was 77% of RVers own their own RVs. So
That's
those
crazy.
people, So a lot of people who were renting before, it seems like have bought, they're just using it now. I think there were a lot of people who thought that people were just buying because they needed something and they weren't gonna like it and they were gonna sell. And I think actually the opposite happened. I think there were people who rented, COVID hit, and they said, you know what, that worked well for us, let's buy. And there were definitely some people who had never RV'd before and went out and bought it, and they did like it, so they continued. And in the sales side of things, we've noticed that as well. There's a lot of people trading up.
Yeah, because you think if they bought like just into COVID, they may have had it now for a year and a half, 2 years, as long as it's been going on. So a lot of people that like the lifestyle, they're like ready for like the step up, the bigger RV.
Right, they're going from a small travel trailer to a larger travel trailer, or a fifth wheel, or a motorhome. You know, going from a Class C to a Class A.
Yep.
We're noticing a lot of that. The funny thing is trade-ins aren't coming like I thought they would. A lot of people are selling private party, or if they have a family member who wants it, situations like that. So it's very, very interesting what's going on in the market. The good news is overall it has settled, at least. So obviously last year was just growing like this. Even though it's only a 1.5% decrease in sales, it still overall shows that, hey, at least we're not doing this anymore. Sales aren't booming. It's like things are leveling out a little bit, which is really good and truthfully needed.
Yeah, although we love like the growth and everything, like an insane amount of growth, it gets a little scary because you're just like waiting for that crash.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're feeling with like the housing market right now. And so it's actually nice to just see a little bit of stability normally now, but like you said, like it's still higher than before COVID, so it's still a very healthy industry.
It is. So that'll lead to pricing a little bit as well. So with pricing, you guys know 6 months ago, a year ago, even a few months ago, pricing was just insane. I couldn't even hardly wrap my brain around it. That also is starting to settle. So the good news is that there are a lot less shortages right now, and those shortages are what really caused the prices to be all over the place. You know, the cost of materials was going up. They're having to pay more from this manufacturer rather than the normal manufacturer to get this part so that they could get everything put together and shipped out. That's not happening as much anymore. So pricing is definitely getting a little more steady. The thing about it is pricing is still increasing, just not at that crazy rate it was a while back. Truthfully, I don't see, especially after talking to some of the manufacturers and stuff, and the parts suppliers, I don't see prices coming back down. I just see them leveling out a little bit more and slowing the growth. Now, the flip side to that leads into my next point is, although the cost of a unit's going up, we're starting to see dealerships give a little bit more discounts off of MSRP. So that's helping a little bit curve those price increases. Overall, I think it's gonna kind of flatten out throughout the year. And if anything, slightly increase, but not like in previous years. What I mean by that is I think as the price of the unit slowly creeps up, I think the discounts increasing slowly are gonna compensate for that. Maybe not equal. I still think they'll slightly increase, but I think overall it's just gonna be a little more level.
Yeah, which is definitely helpful. We just bought our fifth wheel not that long ago, and then just like working with customers. If you guys aren't familiar with our channel as much, we are very involved in like the RV like sales side. We partner with RV retailer and we help connect customers to them. And so we see firsthand just like pricing stuff, and like, you know, it was really hard for us because we have our fans that want to get into units and everything, and or they just like want it, they don't even RV yet and they just really want to get into the lifestyle, and it was so hard for so long.
It really was.
And don't get me wrong, it's still expensive, but unfortunately everything is getting expensive. I mean, I just went to Ulta this morning and everything, groceries is more expensive. So that will eventually become like a more comfortable level, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I think that's how we're getting to the RV industry. It's not like so exponentially inflated. It's just like inflation.
Right. Yeah, and kind of along those same lines, the used market is a little bit different. There's still not a whole lot of used in the market anymore. I think used is still going a little bit quicker because it is cheaper, it's on the lot, it's available. You know, people are starting to realize that like, hey, if I buy a used one, I don't have to add the slide toppers and the cameras and the tire pressure monitoring system. So they're starting to see a little bit of value in that. So used is still going a little bit quicker, and not, again, like I said earlier, not as many trades are coming in as I thought.
Yeah, I think people are selling private party more. All those things and upgrades that you add to it, I do feel like you can get your money back for those upgrades a little bit more when you sell private parties and through dealers. Yeah. So that might be a reason people are selling private party more.
One other thing to keep in mind is as the new market is still ticking up a little bit. I do see the used market starting to settle. Like never in history has used gone up except for, you know, the past couple of years. So, you know, used is overvalued a little bit right now probably. I do see that coming down this year. So, you know, your trades are gonna be worth less and your private party sales are gonna be worth less. But overall, it's going to balance out really the way that the market should be.
Normalize a little bit, but never before could you buy like a car or an RV or like a depreciating asset new, and then sometimes be able to turn around and sell it for more used. Like that really never happens, and that's kind of like the market that we've been in. So yeah, I think that it's going to start leveling out to where, you know, you definitely take a little bit of a depreciation hit once it's a used RV.
Yep,
but that's normal.
Sure. Okay, so I talked about the industry overall as a whole, but there is one exception. Factories in some areas are being shut down right now. Right. It actually is like crazy, and I did not see this coming. But the one exception to everything I just said are Class Cs. Class Cs are so hard to get right now. They're getting more expensive, and yeah, I mean, Class Cs are just a pain right now. So I talked with two manufacturers. I won't say who they are because I didn't clear that with them, and I don't know if this is public information or not. Of those two, both of them were shut down in their Class C factories. Yeah. And I know that there are others. So I think the majority of Class C factories are shut down right now, which is crazy.
It's a big bummer.
It is.
So, and it's not even like it's going to affect so much right now. It's in like 3 months where we're probably going to feel it really bad. I mean,
I
and
think so too.
unfortunately, we're already feeling it. Like we go to so many dealerships to film, and you don't see hardly any Class Cs, you know? And I think it's just because they're that RV that's really popular with first-time RVers, so many people wanted to get in them.
Even not first-time RVers, they're just kind of easy.
They're easy to get into,
you know?
they're cheaper. I think a lot of people that, especially that just go camping on weekends and they don't care about having a second car.
Yep.
They just get a Class C, it's like small enough, hey, we'll just drive into the campground, stay there.
Yep.
It was very popular when COVID started. You had just your RVers that already wanted them, and then you have all this new market that wants them as well. And so there's just hardly any of them left.
Yeah, for sure. The reason behind the Class C shortage and the factories being shut down is the chassis. You guys know there were chip shortages a while back. They've worked through a lot of that. Now there's a windshield wiper module shortage, is what I was told. Right, and it sounds so dumb and it's random, right? But it's a part
it affects so much.
Yeah, and it's a safety thing. Here's the crazy thing is that Ford, so there's two main chassis, the F53 chassis that the Class A's are built on, and the E-Series, typically the 450 chassis. Well, the 450 chassis is considered a complete vehicle because I guess it's got the cab and everything. I don't know what makes it a complete vehicle, right? So they cannot sell that without all the safety features being in it, including the wiper module. Where a Class A, they can, since it's just the stripped chassis. If they send it to, call it, Thor, for example, with a Class A, they can start building everything and then add that wiper module. Ford can send them the wiper module to finish the build on it. Where a Class C, Ford is not allowed to ship the unit to Thor until they have that wiper module. There's literally no chassis for them to work on, and that I know of at least these two plants. So they just send everybody home. I mean, there's no work for them. There's nothing they can do without the chassis. They can work through AC shortages and build everything,
and just let it
tape
sit
it
there
up,
and
but there's nothing they can do right now. So that's really unfortunate and hard. I have a customer that was looking at a Class C. I looked to see if we had one in stock. We didn't have one in stock. I called the factory, and it is part of the shortages. And he said if they order it today, they'll probably get it in November. So it's really crazy. And that's not all, manufacturers. I don't want to say that across the board. That was a very special unit, but still, it just goes to show how backed up it is.
Right. And speaking back on when we were talking about like used RVs, if you have a Class E that you're thinking about selling, now is probably a good time.
You probably.
Yeah, you probably have a lot of value in that right now because people want them and there's just hardly any of them. So.
Yep. Okay, up next, this is kind of an ongoing fact in the RV industry, is that a lot of these smaller dealerships and mom and pop locations that we used to see everywhere are being bought up. So I saw an article that Little Dealer, Little Prices was bought by Campers Inn.
They're a really popular small dealership in Arizona. So I wasn't super familiar with them, but if you live out in that area, you might be familiar with them. Yeah,
for sure. And you guys know we partner with RV Retailer. And they're up to 95 locations nationwide now. A lot of those came from mom and pop locations that they bought. It's good and bad. Obviously, supporting the small local businesses is really good. But also, I see with RV Retailer, it's still owned and operated. It's not like publicly traded or anything. There's still I'll go talk to our CEO at times, and he's still willing to step in and help customers and everything. So it's still, the RV industry is small enough that you're still getting some personalized attention if needed, from what I can see. And obviously there's gonna be some customers who've had issues, but just overall broad. The nice thing is that a lot of them are figuring out ways to better service, really. I know that's a huge thing with RV1 and RV Retailer as a whole, to make it more like the auto industry. You go to Chevy or Ford or GM or whoever, Toyota, and it's really, really a nice experience.
Yeah, it's that seamless, expected experience.
Whereas in the RV industries, it can definitely be a little tough. And I think being bigger, they're gonna have the ability to work through more of this on a larger scale, as well as helping with pricing, buying more units in bulk to get bigger discounts, hopefully. Also help with financing, working with a ton of different banks, with all the business that they send, getting better interest rates. We bought an extended warranty with our alliance, and that was a lot cheaper than previous working with a mom and pop location, probably because they can negotiate that a lot better with the amount of business that they have.
Yeah, I think people have this mentality with a lot of businesses where, you know, when they see the big company coming in and like buying the smaller ones, it's always a negative thing, and it's like, you know, it's like a really sad thing. And I think, you know, obviously like there are pros and cons. You know, keep in mind that a lot of these smaller locations are owned by older people who are actually getting closer to retirement. And a lot of times I think, you know, they welcome the interest in buying their business. Like if a big company wants to come in and buy them and give them a good valuation and everything, it's actually kind of like a helpful thing for them than trying to find someone that they can trust to take over the reins, because they don't always have someone who's like ready to take over the business. So for the actual like owners of these small dealerships, it's not always a bad thing. It's actually a lot of times probably a good thing for them if they're at that point. And then like Will said, like for the customer, can create a much more streamlined experience. The bigger dealerships buy a lot more from Forest River. They have the power to get more inventory because the manufacturers are going to prioritize the ones that are buying more units from them.
For sure.
So they're going to have more inventory for customers. And like Will said, they're going to be able to do better discounts because they get better pricing on them. And that's definitely something we've seen in the past. So, and then on the service note, definitely don't have the mindset like the bigger dealerships are always going to be a worse service experience, because a lot of times they're the ones that, you know, they have so many dealerships, they're researching and trying to figure out a way to create the best service experience. And also the fact that like if you buy, for example, from an RV1 in Tampa, that you're going to be prioritized with service from any RV retailer location. Whereas when you buy from a small dealership that only has one or few locations, you don't have that like nationwide like service priority.
For sure.
So obviously there's always pros and cons, but I think there's more pros than people think. It seems like a very just like, oh, the big guys buying the small guys. Like, and there's definitely like more to the story than that. Yeah,
for sure. And if you look at it on the store level, like we just got back from the RV1 Charleston grand opening. Our friend Elijah is running the store. You know, he's going to be the general manager. They're employing somebody local. They have all these employees who are local. Along those lines too, when these smaller companies get bought out, a lot of times they'll re-employ all the employees or as many of them that want to. I know the president of our East region, his name is Don, and his store was RV1 that was bought by RV retailer. They re-employed him, and you know, again, he's the president of East region. You know, so it's not like it's just like kicking him out.
Right.
The people who owned, the people who own the small locations, a lot of times are still very involved. It's still, you know, still really good.
Something else, kind of in the RV space. So today's the 27th. We're filming this the same day that it comes out. But yesterday, Ford actually started production on their Lightning F-150 electric vehicle. So I think they had come out with a concept version like a bit ago, but they're actually starting production on those today. So that's really cool, and just I think a big step in the whole electric vehicle space.
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of people ask us about like electric vehicles in the RV industry. That I feel like right now is just like a big can of worms. I mean, the concept behind it, I think could work. There's definitely the power behind electric vehicle to tow an RV. And one thing I didn't get a chance to research that I'd like to know is if there's any plans to be able to flat tow an electric vehicle behind a motorhome. I don't know about that, but on the towing side of things, there's definitely power to tow, right? The problem is the longevity. So I did a little bit of digging, and the Rivian is an electric vehicle, and they were talking about it a little bit in regards to towing. So the Rivian can definitely tow a lot of weight. I think it was like 12,000 pounds or 14,000 pounds, something like that. Really good, yeah. Right now they're estimating it'll get 314 miles to a charge. The problem is that when you're towing a full capacity, it's gonna cut that in half, it said.
Yeah.
That's what they're estimating. So 314 would drop it down to 157 miles. That's like that's pushing it a bit.
Yeah, that's it's not a real long trip.
Yeah, truthfully, we fill up, like, I don't let it ever get below 100 miles to empty, you know, so like stopping to get more or to charge back up every 57 miles on the outside.
It's not realistic.
It's not realistic, yeah. Now, granted, that's at full capacity. Still, you know, any towing, you know, electric vehicles are impacted by the weight it's towing, by the weight inside the vehicle, even by the weather. You know, electric vehicles, I think, like to operate around 70 degrees the majority of the time. So all these are gonna have effects on it. It's exciting to see electric vehicles come out, but I think it's gonna be a little bit of time before we start seeing, you able to tow, especially like a fifth wheel or something with an electric vehicle. And truthfully, again, the power is there. And I guess if you just load it up with a ton of batteries, you can make it work. But those batteries are expensive too. And I don't know how realistic that is. But it's very exciting nonetheless to see this evolve and them talking about it in the RV industry. So yeah, we'll see where that leads.
I think, the RV industry, unfortunately, will always be a few years behind compared to this, like, the regular, like, auto industry. So, but it is exciting to see the progress in the auto industry and knowing, like, hey, that will slowly, like, trickle down. It might be a few years because obviously there's a lot more details to figure out in terms of the towing aspect and the longevity for long trips. So we're definitely a ways away from that really impacting RVs, especially for towing. But yeah, it's just cool to see the progress and see all the brands that are starting to come out with their own EV models.
Well, thank you guys all so much for watching. Before we go, we want to give a huge thank you to everybody who came out this past weekend. So over the weekend, we had a big grand opening event at the RV1 of Charleston. And we had so many people come out. It was a lot of fun. It was a great meet and greet. We had food and the moon bounce and tons of fun stuff. And there were just so many people who came out to see us, and we really, really appreciate it.
People that drove hours pretty much just to come down and see us. So we just appreciate it so much that you guys would go out of your way like that. And we always enjoy meeting people. If there was anyone that we didn't get a chance to say hi to, I know sometimes I have to cut out and go take care of the dogs or edit. So I know there's a few people I didn't meet, so I'm really sorry. Hopefully I can catch you at a future event. But we just really appreciate you guys coming down just to say hi and stop by the tent. It's always just like a really, we spend so much time like making the videos behind the camera, behind the computer, and so to actually like see our subscribers and talk to them and meet them, it's very fulfilling and helps us like continue doing what we do. For sure. So if you like videos like this, let us know down in the comments below. Also, let us know which little bit of information you like the most. What do you want us to keep talking about? If you're new here, we always do videos similar to this on Wednesdays, just kind of in the RV industry, tips and tricks or upgrades to our RV and RV tours. And then every Sunday we do a vlog style video. This coming Sunday is going to be our final day or final days in the Bahamas and traveling back home, so that'll be great. Make sure you check out last week's video because we did a private boat, and that was such a fun day and fun experience. That was like literally one of the best days we've ever had while traveling. It was so much fun. So make sure if you're interested in any of that kind of content to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell. We are, as you can see, we're in a house right now. We're home for a couple weeks. We're actually working to get our house here rented out on Airbnb, and so we kind of had to make it home for a couple weeks just to do the things that we need to do to get that like rent friendly, I guess. And so but our RV is nearby and we're gearing up to head to Nashville next. But while we're home, we're hoping to actually do a couple RV upgrade videos that have been like accumulating and we just haven't had time for. So that will probably be a few of the upcoming Wednesday videos. So if you're interested in any of that, make sure to subscribe. And we can't wait to see you guys for the next vlog. Bye guys. See ya.